Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we will talk about a new chapter called staffing. We have been seeing all the management functions one by one. First we saw planning, then we saw organizing. Now we will see staffing. After this, we will see directing and controlling. When I started organizing chapter, I told that organizing is all about creation of roles inside an organization. Let's say I have to build an office, and that office, I have seen a building, so there is an empty hall. In that empty hall, I have just arranged chairs and desks. I have just set up workstations. Now that is similar to organizing. Let's say in that I will give a blueprint. I will see how many managers should sit here, how many employees, how many subordinates will sit here, and how many separate cabin rooms will be there. So that is kind of similar to organizing. Once I have created the office, I have made the setup, I have created workstations, then I have to fill those places, isn't it? I have to fill those seats. Organizing is creation of roles. Staffing is filling the right people for the right job, making the right person sit in the right seat. So that is staffing chapter. So you always have to understand the difference between the organizing process as well as staffing process. So that was the introduction of this management function called staffing. Now let us talk about the importance. The core objective of this video is to talk to you about the entire staffing process. But this being the first lecture, I just want to cover introduction as well as importance on the go before we get into the real discussion of today's video. So let's quickly see what is the importance of staffing chapter. I just want to give you a direct example that you can relate very well. Most of you watching this must be having one maid to help you in your house, to help your parents in your house. You must have hired the maid to do basic housekeeping like brooming the house, mopping every day. You might be paying around anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 depending on the place that you live as a monthly salary to that maid. Answer my question. When you outsource this type of job to a person, do you want to come and stand in front of the maid every day, and should you want to be supervising him or her every day? Do you want to be doing that, or what type of an employee you want? What type of a maid you want? You just have to explain them the process once, and they should be doing it every day without the need for your intervention. Isn't it? So this is exactly required to understand the importance of staffing. So let's say you hired a wrong person as a housekeeper. So let's say the person doesn't visit every day to your premises, or even the days he or she visits, the person doesn't do a proper job of cleaning. Even the dishes he or she does this for namesake. So you have to keep on insisting how they have to do the work properly. You have to keep on insisting them every now and then. So if you have to keep confronting your maid every day and keep taking extra stress and also keep wasting your time, isn't it a silly move that you hired the wrong person? Therefore, what type of person you hire for your organization is of extreme importance. Companies succeed or companies fail purely because of the type of people they hire. I have been to a lot of organizations and I have seen it in first hand that when the organization has a right type of person, when the organization has the right culture, when the organization have right group of people, then it is extremely easy for that organization to achieve any type of goal that they set. It is easy for them to increase the sale. It is easy for them to be the number one in that sector. And also I've seen the other extreme where the organization just want to hire people for hiring sake. They do not do any proper due diligence. They do not conduct interview properly, or they just hire a wrong person for the wrong job just because the resume of that person looks great. All these sort of hiring mistakes I have seen, and I have also seen because of such hiring mistakes what are all the organization will end up losing. So therefore understand this is the importance. Now the staffing process consists of a lot of activities. We will see them one by one. The first thing is estimating the manpower requirement. The second activity is the recruitment aspect. The third is selection. Fourth is placement and orientation. Fifth is training and development. Sixth is performance appraisal. Seventh is promotion and career planning. And eighth is compensation. If you see the arrangement of this chapter, you have a separate detailed discussion about selection, recruitment, and training. Therefore, we will see all the other aspects in today's video. So the primary emphasis for me in today's video is making you understand how to estimate manpower requirements. Now let us take a case where I am a CA who is in practice. Let us imagine a scenario. I am not practicing, but let's say I am a CA who is in practice. I have been practicing like a sole proprietor so far. I want to hire an assistant for me who can do whatever I have been doing. I am ready to train that person. So I just want a person to take away whatever that I have been doing so I can concentrate on much bigger aspects. So that is the need why I have to hire an employee in the first place. So let us say I have 20 clients and each client will take almost 10 hours of my work per month, each client, per month, per client. So that tells me approximately how much time I spend on my practice every month. So roughly that means I need 200 hours per month. So if I hire a person who has to completely replace me, that person should be capable of doing this exact amount of work each and every month. Now, the very process that I did is called workload analysis. While establishing manpower requirements, people do two things: workload analysis, and the second thing they will do is workforce analysis. This is just now what I have explained is workload analysis, because I have to assess how many clients I have and how long does it take for me to serve each and every client every month. So totally how long do I have to work minimum. So this is the this is the volume of workload that I have in my firm. Now let me talk about the workforce analysis. To do this type of work, I need to hire a person who is at least a CA interqualified. So that means it can be a male or it can be a female. So while doing this workforce analysis, what people do mainly is what is the nature of work that is to be done and who can do this type of work. Some jobs only male can do, some jobs only females can do. So after you know what type of work is to be done and how much volume of how much load is going to be there, then you have to sit very carefully and analyze, can women do this job or can males do this job, or can both, the gender doesn't matter, anybody can do the job. So if you take knowledge work like CA practice, anybody can do the job. But let's say if it's a hard work, extreme like fire service or like construction work, it's heavily male oriented job. And then let's say if I'm into like a kitchen business, cooking and gardening and all type of tailoring, these are all kind of pretty much female oriented. Fashion designing, these are all pretty much female dominated field. So I have to, depending on the nature of the work, I will also have to plan what type of workforce I need. So now I will come to a conclusion, because I am in a knowledge type of field, I'm okay with anybody who's a male or female, but at least I will say that person must have completed CA Inter. Let's say I hired a person. Now this person will exactly work for 200 hours a month, which is not so much if you see. Let's say I work for 6 days a week, and per day we work for about 8 hours a day. So that means we will work 48 hours a week, and if you multiply that into 4, it comes to roughly 192 hours a month. And of course it's not exactly 4 weeks, we will always have 2-3 days extra in a month. So that means every month you will be able to reach this monthly target of 200 hours a month. That means how many number of employees do I need to hire? I need to hire only one assistant as of now. As long as I am having 20 clients and as long as those clients require only 10 hours per month each, then I just need only one person. But let us just say that because I have hired this assistant, I am totally freed up. I can go and network and bring more clients. Now what happens? Suddenly I bring 7 new clients in my firm. Now, previously I had 20 clients, now I have 27 clients. Now, let's say these clients also require 10 hours of work every month. So that means I have a revised total volume of workload of 270 hours a month. Now, this means this assistant cannot handle this extra 7 clients. So what I have to do, I have to go for one more hire. So that is how this exact human resource planning happens inside organization. This is how we plan the staffing headcount. Now, because this person normally can handle 20 clients, but I have only 7 extra clients. Now I am in a situation which is called I am overstaffed. So we have lots of employees, but we don't have that many number of work. So that means, let's say, now I have 27 clients and I have 2 resources. This means what I will do, each resource will take, one will take 14 clients and the other will take 13 clients. Normally they are able to do 20, they're able to serve 20 clients a month. Now they just have work for 140 hours and 130 hours a month. That means the rest of 70-80 hours a month, they are going to sit idle. So again, this is what we call an overstaffed situation. Quite the opposite will also happen when we have something called understaffed situation. But let's say I become more aggressive and I went and keep on hiring a lot of new clients, but I have only 2 assistants and 2 employees in this firm. But suddenly, let us say I have 44 total clients. That means each assistant will now have to serve 22 clients, but normal capacity for each of them will be only 20 clients a month, 200 hours a month. Going by this logic, each person will now have to work at least 220 hours a month. Now in this situation, I am under a position called understaffed, which means I have more workload and I have less number of employees. This is also not good for the business. When I have overstaffed situation, the employees will kind of be okay and be relaxed, but I will be paying extra amount of salary for them. My salary cost will be high. The return I get them, the return that I get from them will be considerably less. So thereby I will take less and less profit. But when I'm understaffed, my salary cost will be less, but it is not a long-term solution. My employees will start to get burnt out much easily. They will not begin to like the work environment and they are more prone to quit the job and go and find some less stressful job environment. This is also not good for an organization. Therefore, the importance of estimating the manpower requirements is that it has to be very correct. There should not be any overstaffing. There should not be any understaffing. Right number of people should get the right volume of work and the right nature of work. The balance has to be extremely perfect, or at least it should be near perfect. So that was the first step of staffing process, which was estimating the correct manpower requirements. Once we have estimated the correct manpower requirements, we will proceed to how much staff we need to recruit, and the recruitment stage is the next step. So this is the place where the information generated in the process of writing the job description and the company proceeds to give situations vacant advertisement. We will see an example of how such advertisement looks like. So this is Naukri website, and you can see a business has given a job requirement from Coimbatore. It's a night shift job. CTC is 2.4 lakhs per annum. Cab facility for night shift is available. So they have given everything about the job nature, and also they are saying what skills they require. So they want people with any graduate with a BCom qualification, and they want a full-time job, and it's a permanent job. It's a BP, business process outsourcing type of job, and the role is accounts payable executive. This is exactly the nature of a recruitment advertisement. So I just gave you one example of how a typical job advertisement looks in Naukri. The same way, there are so many job recruitment sites like Indeed, Monster Jobs, and you have LinkedIn. There are lots of platforms where you can find a lot of job vacancy advertisements. You must have already seen so many of such advertisements. So that's the second process. The examples that I mentioned are on digital media. There are also places where you will find them on print media, like in newspapers basically. So that's the second process, which is recruitment. The third process, like I mentioned previously, selection, placement, and orientation. All those things we will see in detail in the upcoming lectures, training and development, and everything. Now let us talk about performance appraisal. Performance appraisal happens once the recruitment is done, once training, selection, everything is done. The person has already been fit into the organization and he or she has started working in the organization for quite a while by now. And when the first cycle gets over, let's say it's a year usually, the superior will evaluate the employee in detail across various parameters. The parameters differ from company to company. General assessment will be about, at the beginning of the performance period, the employees will be given targets, and this employee over this performance period, how much they have achieved whatever the targets that they have set. So when I worked for my job as a CA, our typical goals will be to do cost savings to the management, because I was an auditor, internal auditor. So our job is to primarily bring cost savings to the manager. So my target will be around roughly minimum 50 lakhs per annum. So if I go to a factory for an audit, and if I say I discover some mistakes in that factory, and I make the factory to rectify the error, and because of the error, let's say the management in future is going to save 15 lakhs every year. So that is my savings. That savings has arisen because of me. Now let's say I do 4 type of such discoveries throughout the year. I have achieved my target. So I will get 5-star rating in my annual performance appraisal. So that is appraisal, because we need to measure we need to assess and review how the employee is doing. So this is just a quantitative aspect I just said. While performance appraisal, a lot of qualitative assessments will also take place. They will just generally see how regular the employee, is he coming on time to office, is he very prompt in meeting, is he proactive, or is he very presentable. All these things they will consider while doing performance appraisal, and they have to be in extremely favorable mindset about this particular person in order to give a good amount of increment. So that is performance appraisal for you. Now let us talk about promotion and career planning. So while doing performance appraisal, if the superior believes that the person he is appraising is ready for a bigger challenge, then the superior promotes the subordinate into an immediate higher position. So I'll give you again my personal case. After I qualified CA, after I became CA and went into a job, I joined as an executive of internal audit. After I worked in that department for 2 years, they decided that I'm ready for the next level of challenge. So they made me an assistant manager. So executive is like one level lower, and assistant manager is one level above that. So when the moment I became assistant manager, I kind of came into the managerial cadre. So when somebody becomes assistant manager, that person will be able to have assistants for him. So as an executive, I was already kind of an assistant, but the moment I became an assistant manager, I can actually hire people. I can actually outsource a part of my tasks. So when I was executive, almost all the work that I was told I had to do by myself. But when I became assistant manager, I had that extra bit of authority where if I've been allocated 20-25 tasks, I can outsource like 5 to 7 tasks, like extremely trivial ones. I can hire some extra third-party firms. There are some articled assistants will be there. I will outsource a part of my work to them. I had the authority for that. So that's exactly how promotion and career planning works. Let's say I worked in that position for another 2 years, I would have become deputy manager. And then after deputy manager, again 2 to 3 years, I would have become a general manager. So that's exactly how promotion works in an organization. If it is a small organization, you will be able to climb much faster and reach the top position much earlier, almost in 10 to 12 years. But let's say if it is a company like a huge company like TCS or Wipro, where there are like almost 1 lakh, 1,50,000 employees, then even if you work for, let's say, 17 to 20 years, you will get promotions, but then again, you will not be like the climb will not be so huge. Slight incremental promotion, there will be good salary increment, but the job role will be not like sudden drastic promotion every time. Okay, the last point with respect to staffing process is compensation, which is almost the most important point. The compensation talks about how much salary a particular employee, salary means not just salary wages and other perquisites, how much that person is able to enjoy for the work that they do. Again, in my example, I said that I'm going to hire a resource, and that resource is going to give 200 to 220 hours of their life to my organization, to my business. How much am I going to reward them? So that again is extremely essential. I cannot be so generous, and I cannot overpay them, and extremely, spend a lavish amount of money on them, which is not so good for me business wise. At the same time, I cannot be so stingy and, scrimp on paying salary to them, give like 3% increment, 4% increment. A lot of companies do such things, which creates a huge amount of resentment among employees. If you keep doing this for a couple of quarters, a couple of years, that you keep giving only 2% increment, 4% increment, employees' morale will go completely down, and they will just come to office for namesake. They will not take any initiative. They will say that I don't need promotion. Anyway, you are not going to give me increment, because when you give promotion to an employee, you are giving more and more responsibilities. And only promotion is again it will act like a status game. It will come with a cost of added responsibility, but promotion will not be met with increased salary. So lots of such complications will be there when you have to decide how much you have to compensate the employees. And then there is this another challenge where if you don't reward your employees properly, there is always a competitor who is willing to spend that extra bit of cash. And if you are going to do like this for a couple of years, the employee's loyalty will be only limited to that. They will resign from here and join your competitors. The 2 years that they worked here, the experience that they gained in your business, they will be using it in your competitor business. So which is not good for your business. So this is how compensation works. And when it comes to compensation, there are two types of compensation. One is time based and the other is performance based. Time based compensation is where the employees are paid based on the hours that they work, irrespective of whether they get you results or not. A simple example will be how much we pay for our lawyers. Let's say we are in some legal dispute and we hired a lawyer to represent us. It doesn't matter whether he gets you the case won for you or not. You have to pay the agreed amount. Let's say the lawyer charges you 20,000 per hour. You have to pay that money to him whether he gets you the case done or not. So that's one example of how time-based payments work. Now let's talk about performance-based payment. Now performance-based payment is where employees are paid based on the results that they get. We saw this classic example of peace rate system introduced by Frederick Taylor. So let's say there is an employee who can produce 200 units per day, and then there is this employee who can produce only 160 units per day. You naturally reward the guy who produces more. So that is performance based. Similarly, in my office, when I used to work, the person who gives the most cost savings for the company will get the most amount of increment. There will be a certain amount of fixed salary, but beyond the fixed salary, there will be some variable component in salary. So that variable component, who gets to enjoy the most? The person who achieves the most, person who not just meets the target, a person who exceeds the target. So that's how that variable pay works. Apart from the base salary, apart from the money value that you get, there are a lot of companies who give you perquisites. When I talk about perquisites, it is about giving uniform to the employees, giving shoes to the employees, and giving living space. Company quarters will be there, so employees can get to stay in the quarters. They don't have to pay rent also, or the rent will be extremely minimal, some subsidized 500,000 rupees amount of, for namesake they will pay rent. And then there are companies where I have seen they give excellent food facility to the employees, breakfast, lunch, dinner. As long as you stay there, and work. You don't have to worry about food, coffee, tea, refreshments. You don't have snacks. Absolutely not need to worry. There are some companies like that. So yes, it costs a little bit more to the companies because they are spending so much on giving the employees perquisites. But from employees' perspective, apart from the salary that they get, their accommodation is sorted, their food is sorted, their clothing is sorted. All the basic needs are sorted and taken care of by the employers. What more else they will have to worry about in life? So they are more likely to stay in that type of companies for a very longer period than the companies who just say, okay, we will just give you the money, you do whatever you want to do. So that is one way of compensating the employees. So these are all the points that you need to keep in mind. I know it's a long lecture, but this is the entire staffing process for you. Hello and welcome back. We are currently in staffing chapter. In today's video, we'll talk about the topic called recruitment. One of the ways in which how you get people inside your organization, how you fill the roles inside your organization. Recruitment can happen through two sources. One is from internal source and the other is from external source. So people who are already working within the organization, you can use them to fill some vacancy inside your organization. So that is recruiting people from internal source, and external source is all about bringing completely new people inside your organization, which we will see in detail in tomorrow's video. In today's video, we will talk about how people are recruited through internal source and also what are the advantages and disadvantages of recruiting from internal sources. So there are two ways through which people get recruited from internal sources. One is transfers and the other is through promotions. So now first let's talk about transfers. Transfers can happen from one role to another, from one location to another, from one department to another, from one division to another, and from one shift to another. Let's see one by one in detail. One role to another. The person might be within the same department. For example, a person who has completed BCom with some post-graduation, he must be working inside account department, but he must be doing an accounts payable executive role. He will be transferred from accounts payable role into maybe accounts receivables role, or maybe he will be transferred into trade marketing role. He will be within accounts department only, but he may be transferred into a new role within the same department. So that is transferring from one role to another. Now, second thing is transferring from one location to another. This is a classic case that you must have heard a lot in your life. People working in government offices, people working in banks, people working in LIC, they all will be subject to geographical rotation every 3 years. People working in banks, whether they like it or not, every 3 years they have to face a transfer, and most likely the transfer will be from one state to another. That's why most likely if you are already children of parents working in banks or LIC, every 3 years your parents must be moving from one branch to another. So that is transferring from one location to another. Then transferring from one department to another. So this is a classic case of what happens when a CA joins in a big company. Generally, people when they recruit CAs, they recruit them into internal audit division. There they train the employees for 1.5 years. From there, they will transfer them to accounts department or finance department. Sometimes, if they are a science-based employee, let's say they are an engineer, so they will be working in production department. Then from production department, they will be transferred to plant maintenance. It's a completely different department. So they will be transferred from core production to plant maintenance. So this is how department transfers work. Also, sometimes marketing executives will be working in marketing like a marketing manager. They might be pushed into sales, or sometimes people working in sales division might get transferred into marketing if they have exposure in both fields. Okay, so that is transferring from one department to another. Now let's talk about one division to another. One division to another. This has happened in my office where there were multiple divisions. So we saw what is a division and divisional structure type of organization in detail in the previous chapter. A company can have 2-3 lines of businesses. So that company will follow a divisional structure of organization. So the company where I worked, They made shampoos, at the same time they made food products, at the same time they had saloon business, at the same time they also made pickles and snacks and namkeens. Each division had its own type of products and its own type of market. There was a marketing manager working in the shampoo division, personal care division. He will be transferred into a marketing manager in snacks division, or he will be transferred from snacks division to take care of the marketing of the milkshake and beverage division. So this is how divisional transfers work, and finally one shift to another. So this is classic case where people who work in MNCs, and particularly MNCs with the BPO type of job, so they will be doing day shift, and then after 2 months they will be pushed into night shift, and then there they will work for a couple of months, and then they will be coming back to first shift. So this is transfer from one shift to another. Now let's talk about promotions. Promotion is where you elevate an employee from one position and move them into a higher position. I have already shared my promotion story in my previous video. Anyway, now the context is right, so I'll just share it one more time. When I worked in the organization as a chartered accountant, I got my first job as a CA. I got recruited as an executive in my first job, executive of internal audit. There I worked for 2 years. After seeing my performance, the company decided, okay, it is time that we give him a higher responsibility, push him to a higher position. So from executive of internal audit, I got promoted as assistant manager internal audit. Had I stayed there in that organization for maybe a couple of more years, I would have been promoted to deputy manager of internal audit, or I would have also been transferred to some other department. So deputy manager of planning and financial analysis department. So it could be anything. It could be anything. But promotion is where a person moves vertically up in an organization. Now let's talk about the merits and demerits of internal recruitment source in detail. So the first point is, this improves employees' motivation, commitment, and loyalty to the organization. So let's say you are currently a graduate working in an entry-level job. Now you see your seniors getting promoted and moving into higher job position, drawing more salary, getting more perquisites. It's a visual assurance for you that, okay, my seniors joined earlier and they did their work, now they are getting promoted. So similarly, if I follow my seniors' footsteps, if I stay the time, and if I work hard enough and give results, I will also be promoted. I will also get more salary and more benefits. So this is a great incentive for employees to give good performance. It improves their motivation, it improves their commitment and loyalty to the organization. The second point is, simplifies process of selection and placement. It is always easy and it is always better to source a human resource from within the organization than to look for them outside the organization. It is time effective and it is also cost effective. It is also beneficial in one way, that because the person is already employed inside the company for, let's say, 2.5 years or 5-6 years, they know about the company very well. And now if you promote them or if you transfer them to another part of organization, then they don't need one more induction program. They already know how the company works. So it is pretty time effective. Okay, let's go to the next point. Transfer, a tool of training for higher jobs. Now, if the company has recruited some star candidate, and if the company finds that this candidate will one day go on to head the company, he has that potential, she has that potential. If the company finds one such recruiter, then the company will frequently transfer this employee to work within almost every department of the organization, so that the employee will know exactly how each and every division, exactly how each and every function works inside the organization. So they need to get a generalized exposure across the organization. So they will be asked to work in this department for 6 months to 1 year, the next department for 6 months to 1 year. So like this, it will take almost 5 to 6 years for them to complete a full cycle. By the time they will be very, very well versed across divisions inside an organization. Therefore, if a person has enough exposure by working in all divisions, all departments inside an organization, they will make excellent leader material, because they already have a first-hand experience about how each and every division, how each and every department works. That will help them to conduct their leadership position in a much, much better way than a person who directly gets appointed or a person who comes from just only one function. Okay, now let's talk about reallocation of resources is possible, surplus to deficit. In the previous video, we talked about a situation of overstaffing and understaffing. Overstaffing is where I have lots of people sitting idle, but I don't have enough volume of work to give them. But understaffing is a situation where I have lots of work to do, but I don't have enough staffing there. So let's say there are two departments inside a company, Department A and Department B, and Department A has 6 employees, but that department has only actual work of 5 people, work for 5 people. But Department B has only 5 people, but they have actually work for 6 people's worth of work is there. So now the person who is sitting idle in Department A will be simply shifted to Department B, and that way Department A will be properly staffed now, and Department B will also be properly staffed. So you don't need to go and recruit a new person afresh. So that's the point. Reallocation of resources is possible. And finally, it is cost effective, which we already saw. Recruiting from internal sources is time effective and cost effective. You don't have to give public announcement. You don't have to conduct interviews. It is extremely time and cost effective. Now let us talk about demerits of internal source recruitment. The first point is scope of fresh talent is reduced. Let's say the age of the people inside the company, none of them is new to the company. Let's say almost everybody in the company are like more than 5 to 6, 7 years old. That means they would have already been accustomed to one way of thinking. They will always learn to attack a problem in a particular way. Now, if people are conditioned and habituated to deal with a problem in a similar way, it will lead to less and less innovative ideas. It will lead to less and less creativity. So therefore, out-of-box thinking will not happen within the organization. Let's say the company has come across an extremely new type of problem. If people are recruited from internal source and a person who has already worked in the company for, let's say, 20, 25 years, and he is now in the leadership position, then they may not think in a new way. So they may have to hire some external consultants' help, and that will cost you money. So that's why scope of fresh talent is reduced, and also it will lead to curtailing of creativity. Second, employees can become lethargic due to time-bound promotions. We have seen this pretty much in government type of organizations where promotion is almost certain. As long as you just stay in the job, even if you don't deliver, even if you don't perform, purely on seniority basis, most of the people will get promoted. Just time-bound promotion, they call it time-bound promotion. You cannot do this in private type of organization. You have to deliver, you have to perform. If you don't perform, they will kind of send you out of the organization. But in government offices, job assurance is guaranteed. So employees, whether they perform or not, they will be, even organically, they will be promoted at least once in 4 years, at least once in 3 years. So they will start to think, why should I even have to work? Why should I even have to sweat? Anyway, I'm going to get my promotion, whether I work or not. That will lead to this lethargic attitude. Okay, not applicable for new enterprises. This is an obvious point. If the company has just come into existence, it's a brand new enterprise. It won't have any pre-existing employees that they can groom from internal source. So obviously they have to look from outside only. So it is not suitable for new enterprises. And finally, frequent transfers may happen employees' productivity. A company, if they transfer once in 3 years, it's fine, or once in 4 years, it's fine. But let's say there is a company that does not have a fixed time limit to transfer. So they go about transferring people the way they want, as how they wish. If particularly they don't like an employee, they might use it as a revenge tactic. So they might transfer him once in 3 months from one department to another department, and then another 4 months they may transfer him from one role to another role. Then they may transfer him from one plant to another plant, that is one location to another location. Before the employee could even settle in that current job, he will be transferred to the next job or a next location. So this will hamper that employee's performance in the long term. The employee will be under pressure. There will be some teething issues for him. He will always be facing change management. So not good sign for an employee's career. Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we will talk about what is recruiting from external sources and what are the modes that are involved in such recruiting and what are the advantages and disadvantages. So recruiting happens through two types of sources. One is through internal source and other is from external source. Internal source is where we try to fill a job spot with a person who is already recruited within the company. So that is recruiting from internal source. Recruiting from external source is quite obvious as it sounds. It is filling a job role by a person who is totally unrelated to the company. An anonymous person now becomes a part of the organization. That is recruiting from external source. Now let us see what are the modes through which we can recruit from external sources. So let us see one by one. The first is direct recruitment. You must have seen in your city or in your town, there will be some assembly area where these daily wage workers will come and assemble over there. My town is Tanjavur, so there is a place called Medical College, a prominent square in Tanjavur, where a lot of daily wage workers will gather over there in morning around 8:15 a.m. And the guy, like the Mestris we call, those people will come in a share auto like Ace Auto or some Acer van, depending on the size of their recruitment ability. They will come there and they will just pinpoint one person after the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 10 people today. So if whoever is available, and they will tell where the job is going to happen, what type of work they have to do. So these will be mostly real estate construction type work, pretty much unskilled work. They have to break bricks or they have to move sand from one place to the other or move blue stones from one place to the other. It is pretty much as simple as that, pretty labor oriented but not so skilled. So this is called direct recruitment, and by the end of the day their contract is over. Again the next day these people will come and assemble at the same assembly area, and then they will be recruited by some other contractor and that person will be taken to some other project. So this is how direct recruitment works. The second point is casual callers. These are all the callers who generally dial a company, people who are in need of job. They will dial a company and ask for, let's say I am a person coming from this area, calling from this area. I have studied so and so and so, and these are my qualifications and these are my job skills. I need a job from you. Do you have a job? They ask all these details casually. And some people, they will just send email. They would have received the job recruiting email ID. They would have got your company's job recruiting ID. So they would have simply forwarded their resume to this ID. So these type of applications will keep on accumulating within a single business over a course of time. So now, let's say I have 150, 200 job resume applications piled up in my inbox, or I have it in my database. Then I will simply sort them through. I will have a look at them and see if I get a good resource from that pile. So that is how casual callers, that's how we recruit through that. Now advertisement is where you would have pretty much seen this already. Advertisement happens both on print and television media. Now in print you would have seen newspapers. There will be a section called classifieds. In that classifieds you would have seen a job application wanted, a person aged between 22 to 25, preferably male or preferably female, for this type of work at this area, expected salary 20 to 25,000, 30,000, depending on the job nature. So that is advertisement. Sometimes on television you will see some big recruiters might use this. Let's say Railways is recruiting, Indian Army is hiring, or let's say Air Force is hiring. You would have seen such news announcements in the middle of a program or in the middle of a news telecast. So that is advertisement. The only problem is when you advertise either through print media or through television, a large number of people will happen to see the recruitment advertisement and then they will end up applying to your company. Now you will have a lot of applications, let's say 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 applications, and you have to have a big screening process to which people should be rejected directly and which people should be considered for the next round. The recruitment process becomes much more complicated if you go through advertisement. The next point is employment exchange. Now employment exchange is a type of a job market run by the government. It could be state government or central government. I think even now it is a practice, but it is much more prominent like 15, 20 years back when we completed our 10th and plus 2, our parents and elder relatives used to force us to get registered in employment exchange every time you get a qualification. This is for the reason that the employment exchange will have a lot of database from candidates like you. Let's say you have completed class 10, you have completed class 12. People will ask you to open a login inside employment exchange portal and submit your certificates copies to them. So they will have a database of you. That means they know that a person from Tamil Nadu or a person from Andhra having completed plus 2 and did science group or did commerce group is there. They know it. So tomorrow if a job opportunity comes, let's say there is a big company that is recruiting, or let's say even inside government there is a position that is opening which matches your available skills, then you will get a call, you will get a letter from the government that okay, we are considering recruiting you, interview is going to be scheduled at this place, come to this place. It could be from government or it could be from private people, but that is employment exchange. So to put things in context, employment exchange is like a LinkedIn run by government. You know how LinkedIn works, you know how Naukri.com works. So employment exchange is like LinkedIn or Naukri.com run by the government itself. Sometimes the government will recruit it for itself, or it will act like an intermediary between a private employer for a normal citizen who wants job. So this is largely done by the government to make sure that there are not many unemployed people inside the territory. So that is employment exchange. So that is one mode. And then placement agencies and management consultants. Now they are extremely similar to employment exchange, except that these placement agencies and management consultants are totally private, and also under employment exchange, usually entry level jobs will be solicited. Okay, under employment exchange, usually the first job a person gets in their career will be through employment exchange. So when a person is getting a first job, it will be mostly unskilled or semi-skilled work, mostly entry level job. But placement agencies and management consultants, they work in a little different way. They are extremely specialist people. Their core business is to match up. They are basically brokers only. But what do they broker? They bring recruiters and potential employees together. They perform this job for middle level managers and top level managers. Let me tell you something. If you are 21 and you complete an undergraduation, or let's say you become 22, 23, you finish post graduation, and when you step into your first job, for the first 4-5 years, it is easy for you to switch jobs because you are still very like a beginner inside your career market, job market. But once you have 5 years or 6-7 years of experience, then you go from lower level management to middle level management. In any company, wherever you go, you will be, at least if you have 7 years of experience, you will be recruited into middle level management. After that, job switching becomes difficult. The more and more experience you carry, the more and more specialized and customized you become. Therefore, you cannot just like that walk into any company. Let's say you are a BCom graduate and you want to get into a company. It doesn't matter whether you get into TCS or it doesn't matter whether you get into Wipro. It absolutely doesn't matter. Or you can get into a totally unrelated sector. You can get a job in paint company or a cement company. That is totally fine. It all works as long as you are a beginner, because you are an unmolded, like a fresh dough. So you can be customized into anything. But the more you have career experience, 7 years, 8 years, then you will start to have a specialization by that point. A person who worked in taxation in IT sector will be focusing and will be possibly getting recruited only in IT sector taxation. A person working in telecom sector, finance department cannot most likely get switched into an FMCG sector. So that's how it usually works. So the moral of the story is, the more you get specialized, 8, 9, 10 years of experience, it gets very difficult to switch jobs. So that's when this placement agencies and management consultants will help. You have to get registered under them, and recruiters will also be in touch with those people. So they will match your resume with the potential job finders. So whoever wants to recruit you. So that is placement agencies and management consultants. Okay, next let's talk about campus recruitment. This is quite obvious. You must have heard it a lot of times in engineering colleges, in medical colleges. You will see in tech colleges and even in arts colleges these days. Campus recruitment happens by the end of third year. The companies will come and recruit you, and when you finish your fourth year, you will have a job assurance definitely with you. Let's say if you are doing MBA, maybe by the end of third semester, campus recruitment will come and you will have to attend their interviews. It will happen like a job fair, 2 to 3 days. Many companies will come and they will have their own way of recruiting. Sometimes they will do very specialized recruitment, sometimes they will do mass recruitment. Mass recruitment is where they just need like 50 to 100 people all at once, or more than 100 people all at once. That is mass recruitment. Specialized recruitment is that they have only 5 to 10 slots in their company, and out of a college strength of a class strength of 300 400 people, they will pick the 10 best people from the lot. So that is how campus recruitment works. Recommendations of employees. Now this is one of the most underrated ways of recruiting. It is quite cheaper, at the same time it is more effective. Now how recommendation works is, let's say I work for a company, I'm a chartered accountant and I work for a company, and I have another friend who is working in another company. Now he wants to have a job change. And also let's say there is an opening for a chartered accountant in either audit department or finance department. So I recommend it to my CFO and say that I have a potential person who is searching for a job and we also have vacancy here. Shall I ask my friend to forward the resume to this office? Then if my CFO says, yes, absolutely, we would like to have an interview with that person. The point is, now the person who is going to apply is not going to be totally anonymous. I am there to give a word of recommendation about my friend to my boss. So I act like a source of trust for my boss, because my boss already has an element of trust with me. So now if I recommend a third person, the boss already has primed up, as already has an opinion. Okay, if Harish recommends somebody, then that person must also be almost similar to Harish. Now I trust Harish, therefore I can trust the other person. At least I can have a look at the other person. So that way the company also has higher chances of getting good resources. And also a lot of companies give a referral bonus. Now again, how the system works is, if I refer this friend and let's say the friend also happens to be very smart, and let's say he successfully cracked the interview and he gets on board into the company, he got the job. Now I will get some amount as a referral bonus. In some companies it will be dependent on percentage, based on how much CTC the other person is getting, I will get 1% of that. Or in some companies it will be like a flat amount, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, similar to that. So one time bonus I will get. So that means because the company is also paying me 30, 40, 50,000, I will be more motivated to look for good resources in my circle. So I will act like an indirect broker for the company. So this is how recommendation of employees work. Now next thing is labor contractors. This I have seen in my job experience itself. The company where I worked before, there were a lot of factories and warehouses where you need a lot of unskilled laborers. Unskilled laborers means people who want to operate machines, like basic preliminary work, who wipe the machine, clean the floor, and sometimes arrange the trolley, arrange the pallets, stocks. Those type of work, not core manufacturing skilled work, like general factory maintenance work. For that, the monthly salary will be hardly 8,000 to 10,000, not more than that. So for this type of work, we need stable labor. It's not like we hire them for one day and then they don't come tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. So we have to hire them on a long-term basis. So what the company used to do is, they will give this job to a labor contractor. Now this guy, I'm giving you an actual example. The factory was in Maharashtra. So this guy was a local Marathi over there. Particularly if I have to say, it's a place called Bhiwandi near Mumbai. So this guy was a local guy. What he will do, he will take a trip to Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, remote parts of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh once every 2 months. So there he will go to some villages. He will have lots of contact in those villages. He will see people who have completed their education, but they don't have any job, or people who don't have any, much of education but they also don't have job but are looking for a job and they are willing to work. He will pick those type of people and he will say, okay, there is a company, there is a factory in Bhiwandi, we will give you a place to stay and we will give you 8,000 to 10,000 every month, and we will also give you food 3 times a day. Are you willing to work? So those people will then say, okay, yes, we are willing to work, we are also in need of job. So they will leave their family and come and settle in this factory quarters for time being. They will work for 1 year, 2 years or 3 years. If they become really skilled, if they are good at the job, then they will be given higher and higher work. So this is how labor contractors work. So the company will say, okay, because I said it's a snacks based company, they will say Diwali is coming, New Year is coming, so we will have peak demand. Then we have to spike the production up. Okay, get us 20 more resources, get us 30 more people. So this labor contractor will arrange for that. So that's how labor contractors work. And finally, web publishing. Web publishing is all we know. Naukri.com, Indeed, monsterjobs.com, LinkedIn, whatever that you see, online portal where the recruiters will say we need people and the employees will say we need work. Those people will be matched. So that is web publishing. Now let's see the merits and demerits of this external recruiting quickly. The first thing is qualified personnel. Okay, again, I'm directly taking it from the NCERT material. It's given that if you recruit through external sources, you will get qualified personnel, but I'm not so convinced on that point. Anyway, whether you recruit it through internal source or external source, you are going to recruit qualified people only. So I won't say this will be a proper advantage of this mode of recruiting, but it's given in the material, so I've just mentioned it here. But the other 3 points are good, valid points. The second point is wider choice. Yes, if I have to recruit it from internal source, I will hardly have 4 to 5 choices maybe. I have to pick one from that. But if I go from out of the company and go to a wider source and go to the external source, I can hunt from a large pool of fish that are there. Like I said in the advertisement example, when I just release one advertisement, easily I will get 500 to 600 applications. So then I will have a wider choice. I will most likely get a better choice when I have more number of people applying to me. So that is one advantage. Next is fresh talent, which we saw as a disadvantage from internal recruiting. People will be so accustomed to the organization, they will start to think from one line of thinking. So most probably the innovation and creativity will be curtailed if the organization is filled with people who are already there for 4 or 5 years. When you need an out-of-box solution, out-of-box thinking solution, then it is sometimes advisable to hire people from a third party. It's okay to have an external perspective. So that is there. Room for fresh talent is good. It will lead to many creative discoveries. Then competitive spirit. Again, this is a valid point. If the company has a regular policy of always hiring from external source, the people who are already within the company, who are already part of the system, will work in a little more diligent manner, because they know that there is always somebody who might step in and give competition to their position. Let's say if the company doesn't use external source of recruiting at all, let's say the company strictly follows internal preference only. If that is the case, then I will become more and more lethargic. I'm more prone to become lethargic because I will always know there is not going to be any external recruitment at all. So the company has to come to me eventually. If I have such a power situation, then I will tend to abuse that. Then I will not give my best at all. But on the other hand, let's say if the company regularly recruits people from outside sources, then I will always be under pressure to perform. If I don't perform, there is always a risk of somebody else coming from outside and taking up that job position. So that is the competitive spirit point. Now let's talk about the limitation. Dissatisfaction among existing staff. We must have seen this a lot in real life, where the people working inside the organization from the earlier days of organization, they would have probably worked for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. They will be very deserving to be given that next leadership position. But the company will discredit them, disregard their hard work of all these years, and then suddenly they will recruit some young guy from a different source or maybe from a related party of the top management. then whatever these people who worked for 12-15 years in that organization, their work will mean like it is amounted for nothing. So this will create a huge amount of disappointment for the people who have served this organization for say 10, 12, 15 years. So this is the biggest disadvantage when people recruit from external sources. Lengthy and costly process. The next disadvantages are lengthy and costly process. Absolutely true. It will take at least 2 months to fill a middle level manager from the point of vacancy that arises. The company HR has to always be in the hunt. They will have to be in tie-up with management consultants. They will have to give so many advertisements. Lots of screening process they have to do. I told you, isn't it? 500, 600 applications, if it comes, it will take at least 5 to 6 minutes to give a genuine attention to that application and then decide whether to proceed with that person or not. Let's say even the first round itself, I got 1,000 applications. I will have to filter it to 200 applicants. Then I have to call all these 200 applicants to my office, conduct at least a 10-minute interview for each candidate to decide whether that candidate is worthy or not. So it is an absolutely lengthy process. So for filling one job position, it might take at least 2 to 3 months. I have seen, again, telling from personal experience, to recruit a person at a general manager level or at a vice president level, it's not at all easy. Next, costly process. Yes, whenever you go for advertising your job openings, you have to pay money. And also whenever you go with placement agencies and whenever you take their help, you have to give them a commission of whatever the final CTC is being approved. So it is again a costly process. And also you have to consider the opportunity cost. By the time you fill, I said it will take 2 months to 3 months. Whatever those 2 months to 3 months, the job vacancy, that much amount of work would not be done, isn't it? Let's say there is a vacancy for a general manager finance and the post has been vacated without a proper replacement, and let's say it took 2 months to replace that post. What happened in those 2 months? The finance department would have functioned without a general manager. They would have made more mistakes. Such mistakes will again prove extremely costly to the company. So when I talk about cost, it's not just the actual out-of-pocket cost. You should also understand the implied unavoidable risk that arise because of a sudden creation of vacancy and a longer period to replace that vacancy. Hello and welcome back. Currently we are discussing about the staffing chapter. In the previous lectures, we talked about the staffing process in detail, and in the next lecture we talked about recruitment from external sources and recruit from internal sources, the advantages and disadvantages of each system in detail. And now we will talk about the selection process in detail. The selection process has 8 steps to it, 8 stages to it. In today's video, we will talk about the first 2 steps, which are the preliminary screening and the selection tests. So let's talk about the first step in the selection process, which is preliminary screening. Now this is the stage where the person who is going to recruit will receive a lot of applications. Almost 150 to 200 applications in the form of resumes would have already been sitting in the recruiter's email inbox. So the person who wants to recruit will collect and gather all the resumes and take it to a separate folder, and then his job will be to start opening each and every inbox and verify each and every resume from top to bottom. So depending on the time availability and also the patience level of the person who wants to recruit, a person will allocate anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes for each and every resume. When I used to do this job, again I used to have a complete repository of 100 to 150 resumes, and we had to filter almost 10 to 15 candidates from that. The general rule is any bulk of resumes that you get from your inbox, let's say you are sorting through 50 resumes or let's say you are sorting through 100 resumes, the general rule is almost 80% of that will be directly unqualified, which means you will be able to easily reject them right by just seeing the resume at first glance itself. So this way almost 80 to 90 percentage of the applications will get rejected straight away. So how does this disqualification process happens? Let me explain that. Generally, the company designing the role will also tell that what type of person should be appointed for that. So if I have to recruit a person who is an officer or a senior officer or a junior officer, then I will be okay if I can recruit a BCom graduate or an MBA graduate. I don't need to recruit necessarily a chartered accountant for that. But my HR policy will state that if I have to recruit a person above senior officer level, which is like executive, assistant managerial level, then that person has to be compulsorily a chartered accountant. No matter how much a BCom graduate has an experience in terms of work experience, like 7, 8, 10 years, they may not be able to get directly recruited as an executive in the company. So the company might have a strong policy like that. So that means, let's say I have an opening for executive post, and out of that 150, almost 80 to 90 resumes will be belonging from a candidate who just passed BCom, a candidate who just passed MBA, or a candidate who is just a CA interqualified and not CA final qualified. So like that, immediately based on qualification, based on the merit, you can reject a first cut of 80-90 people. So that is the preliminary screening process. And also at the next level, you will be able to see the resume might not be so strong. Let's say again, if you are recruiting for an executive or an assistant manager post, the person would not have done much of work in their articleship. The resume would have looked very weak, or the person would have taken a lots of attempts, way more attempts to clear CA. So some organizations will have a filtering criteria based on the number of attempts. So some say that, okay, if you have kept more than 3 attempts, no recruiting for you. So like that, based on these conditions, they will screen the applications and get the good ones filtered out. So out of a volume of 150, a population of 150, some 15 to 20 applications will be finally shortlisted. So once that preliminary screening is done, each and every stage will happen one by one after that. So the next step that happens after that is, in practical, I'm telling you, the company will give a phone call to the person or send an email to the person. Based on the reply that they get from the person, they will invite the person either physically come to the headquarters or where their interview process is going to take place, or the person will be asked to do a test right from their home. So that's the next step, which is the employer will carry out a list of tests on the potential candidate. Before they are being called for actual technical round of interview, they will be even filtered through another layer of tests, which is a list of tests that are given here. In your study material, it is given like intelligence tests, aptitude tests, and then you have personality test, trait test, and interest test. Now, in real life, they don't conduct all tests, probably will not be conducted in a single interview process. A company might use 1 or 2 or combination of 2 or 3 from this list of tests. Anyway, let me tell you how each and every test is carried out and what those tests are. So first is intelligence test. This is a typical straightforward IQ test. You must have already taken IQ tests in your life already. You must have heard about this person has high IQ, that person has a very low IQ. So that is intelligence test, to generally have an idea about what is the intelligent level of this candidate. So why is IQ test important? It's because if a person has a naturally high IQ, they will think through solutions much faster. This intelligence test is generally used for knowledge based work. So it is not done for physical type of work, not for blue collar jobs, but this is specifically for white collar jobs, where the job involves a lot of critical thinking and analytical thinking. Then this IQ test will be conducted. So I'll give you an example of how a typical IQ test will look like. So this is a typical IQ test question you must have seen already. So 2, 5, 9, 14, 20, 27. What will come next? So 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9, and 9 plus 5 is 14. So the numbers are increasing in progression. So the next answer should be 27. So and then the test will go on like this. So then again, you have been given some shapes like this. At this box, what will happen? So you can give a try yourself. There are lots of IQ tests available online. So you can give a shot later on. So at the end of the tests, you will get a score. If you get score above 100, then it means that you are a little way more mature than your current age. You have more intelligence than your current age. If you have less than 100, then that's not so a welcoming sign. The next thing is aptitude test. Okay, what's written here? It is a measure of individual's potential for learning new skills. It indicates the person's capacity to develop and learn new skills. This again, it will not be conducted as a test per se, but while doing preliminary screening, they will look for this attribute in that resume. Because while doing preliminary screening in the resume, we will see particularly two things. One is the main qualification and the other is other achievements. Okay, what has this person achieved or learned apart from the main curriculum? Let's say if I'm screening for an officer role resume, I will see, okay, this person has done BCom. Okay, fine. From a good college, yes. With a good passing percentage, yes. Apart from BCom, what has he done? Has he learned Excel? Has he learned Tally? Has he learned at least one module of SAP? Or has he done any diploma in data analytics? Something we will have to see. So we will know that, okay, this person, apart from what they learn, mainly have the interest to learn more also. So that is aptitude test. This will not be conducted as a test per se, but it will be done while screening process itself in real life. Okay, now comes the most interesting part, which is the personality test. I have been through this, in my case, first-hand basis. I have actually been through this personality test when I cleared CA and when I went for interview in my first job. They did personality test for me. So let me tell you what is a personality test. You must have heard about multiple personalities, right? There are lots of types of people who have their own unique personalities. Generally, you must have heard of people saying that I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert. Okay, so generally introvert type of people are very reserved and extrovert type of people are outgoing. These are like the broad categories of two categories of people, but then it gets much more sophisticated than that. There are actually 16 recognizable personalities that are there. So let me show you the different personality types. This is again 16personalities.com. There are many personalities actually. INTJ, which is an architect, and INTP, logician, commander, debater, advocate, INFJ. So if the personality starts with IN, it refers to introvert, and if it starts with EN, it is extrovert. So protagonist is extrovert, ENFJ, extrovert. So like this, campaigner, it goes on and on, logistician, defender, it goes on and on. So how does a personality test will look like? What are the questions that will be there? You regularly make new friends, so you have to answer these type of questions. In the personality test that I went through in my job interview, the questions were very similar to this. Not exact questions like this, but very similar to it. Do you make new friends? How often do you go out of your house? Or are you the life of a party? So they just want to know what type of a personality you are. So they won't want to know directly whether you are a drinker or a smoker. Indirectly, they will test you like this to know whether you have such habits. So they will just reasonably make their mind about you. So this is basically to know about your character, about your personality trait, whether you will create a ruckus inside the company in the future or not. Are you a very rebellious person? Do you have any contradictory, conflict creating ability? These type of things that they want to know in person. Because as an organization, when there are 150 to 200 people, 500 people working inside, the company will like to keep it as peaceful and as organized as possible. Let's say there are 15-20 people whose resume looked very great, but they happened to be extremely rebellious people, then those people will keep creating one issue after the other. They will try to make followers for themselves, create union. And again, it will not lead to a peaceful functioning of a company. We saw in organizing chapter about informal organization, how disadvantageous it can get. We saw the severity of the risks that it possesses. So this personality test is again extremely important. We will see a couple of questions here. You regularly make new friends. No. Complex and novel ideas excite you more than simple and straightforward ideas. Okay, sort of, yes. You usually feel more persuaded by what resonates emotionally with you than by factual arguments. No. So like this, the questions will keep on going. You are living in working spaces are clean and organized. Yes. So like this, the questions will keep going on, and finally this website will tell you of all the 16 personalities it listed, what type of personality you are. Okay, so that is personality test for you. Now let us talk about trait test. Trade test you must have seen many times already, or if you don't know, let me tell you how trade test happens. The trade test is actually like the main interview itself. Okay, let me give you the example. These days, the famous YouTubers, if they want to hire some video editors, it's not that they will ask them to send their resume and then they will keep sitting and filtering the resumes and then they will call them and do a telephone interview. They won't waste time like that. So what these YouTubers do, they will give one normal talking head video of them and upload it on Twitter or some place where there is already a lot of audience in that platform, and they will say that this is a talking video of me for 10 minutes. I need a video editor. So your job is to take this video, download this video, make an interesting edit and show me what you can do, and send that edited video to this email ID. Like that, they will make a post, and then we will wait till 1 month, 30 days. You have 30 days to do this. Or let's say if the YouTuber is like extremely, they are in rush, they will say, okay, 7 days for you, do the edit and send it to me. So then they will start seeing the edited final output only. And from that, they will pick 1 or 2 or 3 maximum. Then they will go for the actual interview. So that is trade test. In companies, again, companies like Google, companies like Microsoft, they will not directly recruit any person who is in coding or development. They will already give some problem, some complex problem. You have to give a solution for them. They will see how your coding is. Are you writing very long, lengthy code, or is your code short and crisp? Like that, they will see the trade test. So just these tests measure the existing skills of the individual. Okay, so what you already know about the job that you are applying for. So that is trade test. Then last test is interest test. Again, I don't see this happening very frequently in real life, but let me see anyway. Every individual has fascination for some job than the other. Interest tests are used to know the pattern of interest or involvement of a person. Again, we don't see any actual tests per se regarding interest. We will just get to hear that in the main interview, and before that we will get to see that in the resume itself. Let's say there are lots of subdivisions inside an organization. Even if you are applying for accounts and finance, inside accounts and finance there are lots of subdivision. Based on your interest, you will apply to that division, whether you want to work in audit, or whether you want to work in costing, or whether you want to work in taxation. People will just know about it through the resume itself. So again, it's just given here. Learn it academically, but in real life it doesn't happen that normally. So the thing is, IQ test is quite familiar. Personality test almost every organization will conduct, and trade test is used for, again, these modern day recruitment. Big companies and big creators, they use trade test. So that these are the selection tests. So this concludes the first part of our coverage on selection process. Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we'll talk about the second part of the selection process, which is from stage 3 until stage 8. In the previous video, which is yesterday's video, we saw about the first 2 stages of the selection process, which were preliminary screening and the selection tests. Now let us talk about the third stage of employment interview. After the first 2 stages, from a total application of say 200 to 300, in preliminary screening, there will be a rejection of 150 to 130. Then the next set of candidates will be put through the selection tests. Let's say some 40 to 50 people will write the selection tests. And from that, some 10 to 15 people will go to the next stage, which is employment interview. Now, what happens in employment interview? Why is employment interview necessary? From the resume, you will only get to know people to an extent. From the selection tests, you will get to know them a little bit more. But nothing beats the process of sitting with a person face to face and having a full-on conversation with them. You will get to know a lot about a person when you actually sit in front of them face to face and have a 15 to 20 minutes or even half an hour conversation with them. Okay, so that is this employee interview process. So you will be called to a person physically, you have to be present there. So you have to be well dressed. They will see everything. A lot of things they will monitor. You may think that you have to be at your best only during the time when the panel faces you. It doesn't work like that. An interview process is everything. Right from the time you meet with the security and sign in with the visitors register, from there, that process of you waiting in the lobby, how you walk to restroom or how to even talk to a person sitting next to you, everything they will monitor. Good recruiting companies, they monitor pretty much everything. Whether are you making too much chit chat in the waiting lobby area, or are you too much into your phone, keep scrolling, or are you just talking over phone and making a ruckus inside the office reception area. They will verify everything, they will surveil everything, and then they will call you to the interview room. And some interview process, the panel will be sitting much behind in the room, so you will have to walk at least 10 to 15 steps before getting to your seat. And they will also see how you walk, how confidently you walk. Everything they will measure. And when you actually reach the table, are you shaking hands with them, or are you just saying namaste or whatever it is? Again, they will see all those things. And by the time you walk all the way, they will see how you are dressed and how you have presented yourself on that day. All those things they will measure and evaluate. Everything is a part of their evaluation mechanism. And finally, they'll start with asking, tell me about yourself, that famous question. That's like the icebreaker question in every interview process. So you have to be brief, talk about yourself for a couple of minutes. Then they will start with the follow-up questions. They will see your resume again and say, if there is a common point of talking, let's say the panel is also from Andhra Pradesh and you are also from Andhra Pradesh, then they will say, okay, tell me about your upbringing. Sometimes the interview candidates might be little stressful. So to put them in ease, they will ask some easy questions like this. Some interviewers will be extremely hardcore and they don't want to give any room of comfort for the candidate. They would want to put them in extreme pressure straight away. So they will get into technical questions. Or if there is any loophole in your resume, let's say you cleared your CA in 5th attempt or 6th attempt. So then they will start from there. What happened? Why did you take 5 attempts, 6 attempts? And then they will try to make sure that they never keep you have an upper hand in the interview. So interviews can go either way. It depends on the person who is interviewing. But everything is done for the sole purpose of finding whether you are suitable for the organization, whether you are suitable for the job, whether you will be able to do the job or not. Can you handle the pressure or not? Only to test all that, they do this. So this is the employment interview process. So right when they talk to you, they will keep forming an opinion about you. They will be judging you definitely. So expect to be judged, expect to be evaluated. 2-3 people will be in a typical interview panel. One person will drive the conversation. The other person will just look your body language and doing their own assessment of you. And then they will have a score sheet. So appearance, confidence, level of interest, how engaging are you so boring or are you engaging, or are you controversial or not. They will evaluate you, and technical knowledge, they will evaluate in all the parameters. But let's say you tick all the boxes and then you failed miserably in the technical area. Let's say you are being appointed for a taxation role and you don't know anything about direct tax and indirect tax, then obviously you will not be selected. So they will verify, they'll test for all these things in the interview. But let's say you have successfully crossed stage 3 also. Then the next step is reference and background check. This again they have done for me. While filling the application form, I had mentioned one of my friends as a reference number. And my boss also actually happened to know my friend through a mutual contact. So my boss actually, after me being selected in the interview, then my boss as a next step called my friend without my knowledge and asked about me. So how is Harish? So the guy my boss called and me, we did CA together. So we went to CA classes together. We did articleship together. So my boss asked him, okay, how was he in his articleship? And my friend naturally gave a bit of good recommendation about me. So this is like a formality. Again, not much of a thing you will get to unearth in this reference and background check, because generally whoever you have given as a reference source will naturally tell good things only about you. But somehow they do this as a procedure because sometimes, who knows, a candidate might really be a notorious guy, must have appeared extremely clean and neat, must have had a great resume, must have spoken so softly on the interview. People are there like that to just manipulate the interviewers and try to somehow get into the job. So they will do this background check. Suppose, let's say, it's not your first job and you have already worked in an organization and this is, let's say, your second or third organization. Then in your resume, you would have definitely mentioned about your first and second employments. So then they will call your first boss or second boss or somebody else from the organization whom they think know you, and they will ask for much more details about you. So the level of background checks companies definitely do a lot more, because anyway the company does not want a headache being recruited. So that's the ultimate objective. Okay, the next thing is selection decision. The final decision has to be made from among the candidates who pass the test, interview and reference check. The views of the concerned manager will be generally considered in the final selection. So as I said, in the interview panel, 2 to 3 people will be there minimum. They will have their own perception about each and every candidate. Then they will have a final short list of, let's say, 3 to 4 people competing for final one job. From a resume compilation of 200 applications, after first stage 150 went, second stage some 35-40 went, third and fourth stage some again 15-20 will be gone, and the final, this fifth stage, only 3 to 4 people will be there, and that entire panel will be having a full day of argument between them, full day of a conversation between them. Okay, I liked this guy, or I liked person A, I liked person B. He has this and this advantage. I think he will be more suitable. But at the end of the day, the person who is the boss, who is actually going to recruit, will be the final decision maker. So that is this selection decision. From among the final 3 to 4 candidates, one guy or two guys, based on the number of vacancies, will be selected. The next step is medical examination. Again, this medical examination, I did not come across so severely in my interview process. Generally, they don't do it. They don't give so much emphasis for this stage while recruiting knowledge workers or while recruiting white collar jobs, because you don't need any physical capability. You just need to sit and work. But some big companies, some heavy companies, particularly when they are hiring for blue collar jobs, people who have to work inside a factory, they give a lot of emphasis to this. Let's say a person has this complication of low BP and he is operating a machinery. While operating a heavy important machinery, let's say this person got this blood pressure low and let's say he faints off. It is risk for himself, it is risk for the machine, it is risk for the entire production line. So for those type of jobs, particularly this medical examination will be emphasized a lot. Again, in the screening process, some companies, right after doing the screening process, they will first put the employees for medical, give your medical report. Are you at least physically fit to stand in a factory for 8 hours a day? Only when the employees pass this health test, then they will be called for interview and all the other tests will follow. So some companies will prioritize this. But generally, knowledge workers, not much of medical examination will be done. Just know it as a theory here. Then the 7th point is job offer. Once every test and every process is cleared, finally then they will call you, congratulations, you have been selected. Your date of joining is so and so date. Come to this place at this time. The person will meet you, and from there we will take it forward. You can expect this news from 2 modes. One, they will call you and tell you, or sometimes they will send you email, but mostly they will send by email because there will be a written evidence that this job offer has been issued. So that is job offer, and then you have to, if you receive by mail, you have to give a confirmatory mail. Yes, I am willing to take up this job offer. I am accepting the terms and conditions. I'll be joining on this place at this time. Thank you. You have to send a mail from your end. So that's the 7th process. The 8th process is again one of the most important ones, which is the contract of employment. Let me read this. After the job offer has been made and candidate accepts the offer, certain documents need to be executed by the employer and the candidate. One such document is attestation form. This form contains vital details about the candidate, which are authenticated and attested by him or her. Even after the job offer is done, finally the employment contract has to be signed. So it is an understanding between you and the organization that is recruiting you, that both of you have your own rights and duties to enforce this contract. Let me tell you what are all some noteworthy terms which I had in my employment contract. The contract was for more than 12 to 15 pages, full of fine prints, small letters and everything, lots of terms and conditions. Some noteworthy I will share here are: if you are working here, you should not be working in any job or any other role in a competitor company. So I was working for an FMCG company, so that automatically stops that I should not be in contact with any other FMCG company inside the country. So that means I was working in company X, let's say. I cannot make friends with people in Himalaya and offer them a solution, business solution to them. Or I cannot make friends or offer any business solution to Procter and Gamble or Hindustan Unilever. These are all the competitor companies to the company where I worked. So I cannot be helping the other company. And there is also another bigger clause that precludes me that I should not conduct any business which is in direct competition with the products and services sold by my employment company. So again, the company where I worked had a service business. Let's say they ran saloons, franchise saloons inside Chennai. So that means I should not be starting any business similar to saloon and spa. Okay, so that is another thing. And then the details that followed were like, you should not use office internet, office property, or anything for personal purposes. You should treat office assets with utmost care. So any loss or damage, if it is caused by you, then it will be deducted from your salary. All those things. And also you should be extremely confidential. You should keep the details about the company extremely confidential. Which means you should not divulge any information. Let's say I had been to every plant, I had been to every production area. So I totally knew how each and every snacks are being made, how each and every shampoo is being made. So I had access to all those things, but I cannot divulge any of those information out to other people or out here in public. So that was already covered in part of that employment contract. If I actually go out and keep saying this type of confidential data, then the company will put a legal action against me. So that is how this employment contract works. You can see here, the contents will be about a job, title, duties, responsibilities, date when continuous employment starts, and the basis for calculating service rate. Yes, and it also has how many days of leave is available for you and how many paid leave are there. And then finally, it will also have a term that generally all companies will have a term like this, that we as a company, if we want to lay off any employee, we can do at the time we want. We can maximum give you 10 to 15 days, or we can give you 1 month period. So you will have to vacate your office. This is not just for me, for every employee. This terminology, this condition will be there in the job offer. And in case you want to resign, you have to give at least 3 months notice and serve that entire notice period. You cannot leave the job just like that. So you will not be paid salary. So if you want to leave with the full reputation, then serve 90 days of notice period. But if I want to sack you, I can do it at, like, say 10 days, 15 days time period. So that's exactly, again, company will try to protect itself as much legally as possible. So you must have seen during this COVID period, a lot of companies laid off their employees. Not just COVID period. Many times you can find it on the news that a company, if it is in some financial trouble, the first thing they will let go of are their excess employees. So let's say if a company has to axe its employees, and it has to do it within like 10-12 days period. So it cannot keep the employees for 3 months term or something like that. It should be able to do itself, cut the employees at the time they want. So again, all these will be covered in the employment contract. Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we will talk about training through on-the-job methods, and in tomorrow's video, we will also discuss training through off-the-job methods, and that will be the last lecture of this staffing chapter. Anyway, let's get into today's content. Now, employees, when they join an organization, they will be pretty raw. even if they are qualified, even if they have requisite professional qualification, educational qualification, they will be still raw with respect to the actual job that is to be done. See, you can be an engineer by qualification. You must have done your 4 year undergraduation program, but it is totally a different thing to work as a software engineer or to work as a civil engineer and actually going to the site and doing the work in real time. So when the selection process is done, when the employees are finally recruited, the company will put them under training because the company is new, the job is new, so the employees should get accustomed to it. So they should get tailor made to it, they should get adjusted to what the role requires. That will take a bit of time. The company will invest a lot of time and energy to make this employee get into a shape so that finally this employee will give what the company wants. Now, this whole process is called training. Now, in your study material, you have training, education, and development. Again, very minor differences between them. I'm not going to go in depth. So, directly, let's get into the training methods, on the job training methods. Now, there are many ways in which you can train an employee on the job. That is, the training will not happen separately from an employee's job. You go to your daily job, and while doing the job, while part of the daily program, you will be trained. So, what are such methods? Let's see them one by one. First is apprenticeship programs. If the job is extremely knowledge oriented or it is extremely skill oriented, then the new employee will be trained or he will behave like an apprentice, like an assistant. So there will be a professional, there will be a master, and the new joinee will behave like an apprentice. Apprentice means like an assistant. So they have to serve under him, and it will take minimum 2 years to maximum 4 or 5 years to reach a considerable level of mastery. The best examples that I can give is CA or becoming an advocate. Under CA and in becoming a lawyer, you have to find a professional chartered accountant, a professional lawyer, and you will join them as a junior. So I served my articleship period 3.5 years. It was compulsory for me when I did articleship. It was 3.5 years. Now they have changed it into 2 years. So it is part of the CA course itself that you have to work under a chartered accountant for 2 to 3 years, learn the skill under them, see how they talk to their clients, see how they file their IT returns, see how they perform audits, learn the job. So that is apprenticeship program. So it is not just with respect to knowledge job. Here it is also given that people seeking to enter skilled jobs to become, for example, plumbers, electricians, and iron workers, blacksmith, all these craftsman type of work, they will learn from a professional by serving them as an apprentice. So that is the first thing. The second thing is coaching. Coaching is kind of theoretical. It is something, a coach who is very different from the employee or the person who is coached. Like today, you have seen a lot of coaches out there: mindset coach, performance coach, lifestyle coach, all these types of people. Again, the best example that we can give is a cricket coach, isn't it? So every team has a coach now. Every IPL team has a coach now. They have divided that into bowling, batting, and fielding coach, and then there is a head coach. So what they do to the players, they give the techniques to them. Okay, see, I've been observing you. You have such and such weakness, and you have been getting out by the following means. Or let's say if it is a bowler, then they will say you are bowling in the wrong areas and the wrong line and wrong length. You have to adjust. You have to either extend the length or you have to cut back the length. So the coach will observe the player in action during the previous games, and then after the game is over, the coach will train them. So that is one way of coaching. And then the other way of coaching is where sales employees will be trained on how to talk to customers, how to negotiate, all such things. So again, this will be done during on the job itself. There will be a sales coach. They will give them the script and they will tell exactly how to pick up a phone, dial the number and talk to a customer, how to say hello, how to make small talks. All these things will be covered under this coaching. Okay, the next thing is internship training. Now this is slightly different from apprenticeship training. Apprenticeship training is extremely serious thing. So I want to become a chartered accountant, so I'm ready to work under a chartered accountant for 2 to 3 years. I want to become a lawyer, so I want to be a junior of a famous advocate or a famous lawyer, and I want to learn the skill. But internship training is kind of a light version of apprenticeship training. The general timeline of any internship training will be roughly 1 month or maximum 2 months. In 1 month or 2 months, the person who is getting intern will not learn much actually. You must have heard from colleges, they send students for internship training for 1 month or 2 months. They will say the students have to select a company and there they have to serve this internship period for 1 month. When I was working in my old company, when college students used to come for internship training, they usually come to get basic experience. There, the company will not give them actually any serious work. There, they will be asked to do some random, monotonous, boring job like sorting through papers or creating some formats, doing some data entry job. Extremely low risk, not so risky jobs, not so important jobs. The company just gives the access to visit the office for 1 month, see how employees are talking with each other, how they go to lunch, how they spend time in the tea break and coffee break, all these things. So they get to experience this in first hand. So by the time when they complete their graduation and come to the first job, the entire office environment will not be like completely new for them. So they would have already experienced it a bit during their internship training. So that is internship training for you. And then the fourth method, the last method, is job rotation. This we saw during our discussion on transfers, recruiting from internal sources. We saw a subtopic, isn't it? So in that we saw transfer. Now, what is a job rotation? A job rotation is where an employee will be within the same company, within the same department. So for a period of 6 to 7 months, the employee will be working as an accounts payable executive, and maybe after the end of 7th month there will be a job rotation. The employee will be asked to do bank reconciliation statement, which is a treasury part. Then again, after working for about 1 year or there, they will be posted to MIS, Management Information System. So like that, there are a lot of sub roles inside a department. So the worker will be rotated once every 4 months, once every 5 months. Let's say after a period of getting rotated like this 5 to 6 times in a total period of 18 to 20 months, the employee will be extremely trained almost in that entire department. So he will be able to handle almost any profile in that department. So job rotation is again a very good way to give training to the employees. Hello and welcome back to the final lecture of staffing chapter, training through off-the-job methods. Off-the-job method means training done after the work is over. So the employee will be still working in his main job 8 hours a day. This type of training will be done either before the start of the workday or after the end of the workday, which means the employee will not be in his workstation or will not be in his desk. On-the-job training is the employee will be very much in his desk or workstation. There the training will happen live. But off the job method is the employee would have already done the normal day's work, but then after the job is done, he will be sent to a different place. There they will learn the skill even further. So these are off the job training methods. Let's see them one by one. So the first thing is classroom lectures or conferences. The employees will be sent to a lot of conferences, seminars, where some expert will come and conduct a class for say 2 hours, 3 hours, or even sometimes a whole day or the whole weekend, depending on the intensity of that topic, depending on the availability of the time. In Chartered Accountants Circle, the CA Institute conducts a lot of seminars on basic audit related aspects. Classes will be from IFRS, classes will be about Ind AS, classes will be about GST, classes will be about income tax. So CA firms in practice, they will send the newly joined employees to attend all these seminars. CA firms themselves will pay money and get the students registered or get the newly qualified new employees registered. and these people will be asked to attend such lectures so that these people will learn. Let's say I'm running a firm and I'm practicing in GST. I have recently recruited a newly qualified chartered accountant to work for me. So I want that person to completely be aware of all the new amendments that have taken place, so that he will do the job better for me. The more the person gets trained, the more the person gets educated, the better it is for the firm, the better it is also for the employee. So this is called classroom lectures and conferences. The next is through films. So the film is pretty much, basically it is done using sports related training. So coach and the player will sit and watch the old games videos, and they will do a lot of analysis through the old films. So they will see, okay, let's see, this is how you played that ball. Or let's say if it's a football game, the coach will say, see, the ball was here, the pass was already made, but you were not in that position. You ran a bit slow, or you just lacked 3 to 4 seconds of game awareness. You were just 3 to 4 seconds slow. Or here you made an unforced error. Even in tennis, it will be like that. You should have hit the ball at this side, but you just hit the other side. And the other player, this is how he bluffed you and you fell for it. So the next time when the player raises the racket this way, you understand he's going to hit it in this zone. So like this, the coach and the player will watch the old films and they will learn extremely well. So they will get trained and they will be very well ready for the upcoming games. Even for me, I used to have this shyness towards talking to the camera. So I would not used to have a free flow of conversation to the camera like how I would do to a normal person. So during the early days of my YouTube careers, I used to have a lots of mock recording. I would just sit in front of the camera, press the record button and start talking whatever that I feel like talking. And then after the mock session is over, I would go back to the old footage, see the footage from beginning to the end and see the entire film and see where I am getting stuck, how I am keeping my face, how faster I am talking, what is the pitch that I should use, what is the tone that I should use. I'm still a work in progress, but I'm just giving you an example. This is how people get trained. This is just getting feedback from whatever your old performance is. So that is films for you. And the next is case study. Case study is where we learn from, again, whatever that has happened before. 3 professions use case study extremely well. First profession is the CA profession. The second profession is the law profession. And the third profession is the medical profession. In all these 3 professions, whatever in the previous years, some big landmark incidents must have happened. And that must have created a big problem. And people would have thought extremely in depth and come up with a solution. Now that would have become an extremely learnable case study. In our CA profession, both in academic and after qualification, students are asked to study a lot of old cases. Income tax tribunal cases, high court cases, Supreme Court cases, commissioner level cases, all those things we have to study. The more number of cases you study, you will get to know what that particular line of thought the commissioner of income tax has applied. What line of thought, what are the line of arguments that the high court judge used. So you will get to learn how the experts used to think. When a severe issue comes, you will see it in a very amateurish way. But if you see the same problem, when a high court judge gives in a judgment, the final judgment is just one line. But to arrive at that judgment, the judge will have his line of arguments. All those analysis you have to read. So that is how the CA profession and the legal profession train their juniors, train the young people. In medical profession, again, every hospital, the doctors have a big network of extremely complex case studies. People who were almost given up, the doctors must have given up. They said that this person could not recover at all. This is an extremely difficult disease to cure. But then somebody would have done some miraculous thing and would have saved that patient. Now that will become a case study. So again, another case, a person might be born with extremely weird DNA. Now that they will make it a case study. So the entire medical profession will be prepared for such a situation if it happens again. That is learning through case study. Now let us talk about computer modeling. Computer modeling is like a learning through simulation. This works best in airlines industry. Pilots, when they are again extremely new, they will not be directly put on a plane and they will be asked to fly, because learning a bike by being on the bike and learning a plane directly and by being on the plane directly, they two are different things, isn't it? So learning a bike is not so risky. Even if you fall, you just fall, you get up and you just start again. But again, if you are flying an airplane, you have to be extremely cautious, and even a slight margin of error, you will fall down and create damage, and most likely you will not be alive. So the pilots, when they are asked to, in the early days, they will be put in a simulator. The simulator is something I would highly recommend you to see YouTube for this. Simulator where it will be like a closed chamber. You go inside the simulator, you will see a screen. It pretty much works like a video game. The screen will show exactly how an airport looks like. So there will be controls very similar to the airplane. So they will operate the control and you will get a feeling like you are actually moving the plane. And then let's say you press a lever and push the lever up, you feel like you will again feel like flying, and even the seats will vibrate to match the real world environment. So your seat will tilt and vibrate. Every way you will get to see how it will feel to be inside an actual airplane. So that is computer modeling, that is learning through simulation. Once the pilot does enough number of simulations, when the trainers have a decent amount of confidence that this person is now fit to fly the real plane, then the pilots will go and fly the real plane. So this is computer modeling. And vestibule training is again just a theoretical thing here. It is said, employees learn the jobs on the equipment they will be using, but the training is conducted away from the actual work floor. And I have hardly come across such a training method. What they are trying to say is, there used to be some two very similar looking environment. One environment is where the actual work, real work takes place. And then in somewhere else, there is another training area which is very closely resembling to the main action environment. So the employees will get trained in the area and then seems like they will go and perform in the main area. So I'll just read this through. The employees learn their jobs on the equipment they will be using, but training is conducted away from the actual work floor. Actual work environments are created in a classroom and employees use the same materials, files and equipment. This is usually done when employees are required to handle sophisticated machinery and equipment. So you can kind of understand this is kind of similar to a simulation, except that simulation is pretty much operated through computer, and here we use a kind of a fake object very similar to it. Let's say you want to perform CPR on somebody. In CPR, you can't fake a heart attack, isn't it? But what you have a mannequin resembling a typical person, and then the people will make the first responders to train on that mannequin, on that model. So they will say, just press the chest in this way and how to blow air into the mouth, like that. So something similar to that. So train with a model. Okay, the last thing is programmed instruction. Again, this is similar to an online course where you are given a CD. In old days, there will be CD. So you just insert the CD and it will have 5 to 6 modules. So you will learn one by one. In modern days, you must have seen these type of learning from Skillshare or Udemy, where the course will be there. It will be for 15 to 20 hours or 5 to 10 hours, divided into chapter and chapter based on unit wise. Let's say you want to learn video editing, or let's say you want to learn storytelling, script writing. It will be model chapter wise, how to set up light, how to do color grading, how to cut the video. Module wise it will be there. So I'll just read it out. This method incorporates a pre-arranged and proposed acquisition of some specific skills or general knowledge. Information is broken into meaningful units. So this is what I'm trying to tell. Information is broken into meaningful units. So video editing is a big skill. So I cannot just like that talk about video editing from top to bottom. So I will break that into separate modules, learnable units. So and then I will package the entire thing as a course. And these units are arranged in a proper way to form a logical and sequential learning package from simple to complex. The trainee goes through these units by answering questions or filling the blanks. So that's it with respect to training through off the job methods. I hope you learned this entire staffing function. I hope these videos add value to you. In our next video, we will talk about the next managerial function, which is directing. I will see you in that video. Thank you and bye bye.